All right, welcome to Clifton Park Spark. I'm your host, Tony, and with us today we have a New York native, retired social studies teacher of 34 years, blogger in your past life, I want to say, author of 2 books so far, and most importantly, Clifton Park resident, Robert S. Hoffman, right? Did I miss anything there?
I think you got it all. That's my whole life.
That is your whole
You
life. All
summed it
right,
right up.
podcast is over. Take care. Have a great day,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Mysteries rise between the silence and talking, taken to the grave by Robert S Hoffman.
Oh, man, that's nice. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I believe me, I appreciate it as well.
Yeah, of course. Did I miss anything there, though? That's pretty much the rundown, but
I don't know. Married, 2 kids, 2 grandkids.
nice. Okay. Grandfather, husband. How long you been married, if you don't mind me asking?
May have to get the calculator out for that. Oh my God, 39 years.
That's
In
awesome.
October, it'll be 39 years. Yes.
October, oh yeah? My anniversary is on October too, 15th.
It's good. Not too hot, not too cold.
Definitely. Yep.
Just right.
Yeah. Fall over here is great. The autumn.
Yeah. Well, we got married. I'm from Long Island originally, so we got married down there, but I got out of there as soon as I could.
Did you? I was going to ask what made you move to Clifton Park. I've never been to Long Island, which is weird.
You've never been to Long Island?
I know.
You're
I'm actually from Rhode Island, which is weird.
Oh.
And people always say, oh, Long Island. And I say, no, I've never been there. So tell me all about it and why did you move here?
So I went to school in Oswego, and my wife, who's from Jamestown, which is what the fictional town in the book is based on, also went to Oswego. So we lived about as far apart in New York State as you can. We were about 8 to 10 hours, depending on traffic, from each other. And we met in Oswego, and we met in the class, and got engaged, got married, and we moved to Long Island because there's not a lot of jobs in Jamestown. I didn't go to school to be a teacher. I said earlier I was a comm major, but that didn't get me very far. And it was just so crowded and so expensive. And it was a huge adjustment for my wife coming from a small town. So we finally just said, we had a good friend up here who lived in Albany, and we'd come visit. I'm like, this is pretty good. It looks a little bit like Long Island, but it's not as crowded. It's much more affordable. So we moved up here in '93 and been here ever since.
When you say Jamestown what?
Oh, not Jamestown, Virginia. That's what I said to her when she said, I'm from Jamestown. I said, Virginia. So if you go west on I-90 and it takes you to Buffalo, then you go about another hour and a half south, and that's Jamestown. And then you go any further, you're in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. It's out there in the boondocks.
It's way out. It's like that little corner of New York State, that most western little corner. That's where Jamestown is. So
wow, that's the real west area. That's cool. So you met in college. What was your goal? Like when you were taking communication majoring, what was your hey, this is what I'm going to do when I graduate, and I'm going to be this the rest of my life. What was your plan?
Everyone has a plan until, what does Mike Tyson say, until you get punched in the face?
Exactly.
So I wanted to be a broadcaster, and I did radio and TV and all that stuff. And I didn't like my voice very much. And then I had a professor who was a very good teacher, but he said, you're probably going to start in Iowa making $3 an hour doing the overnight shift on radio. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I got into writing a little bit, and I wrote for the school paper and had my own column, and I really enjoyed that, but I couldn't find a job. It was different now. I mean, there's so many writing opportunities. Then there was a few newspapers, and that was it. This is pre-internet, of course. And so I ended up in a business, used to sell advertising on TV, and it was just so god-awful boring. And I just realized desk jobs weren't for me. And so I said, well, I like history. Teenagers are more interesting than adults. And there's only one job that allows you to do that, and that's teaching. And so that's how I ended up a teacher. But if I really had wanted to be a writer, like for a newspaper or something like that, and I wasn't willing to go to Arkansas or Oklahoma, somewhere like that to start. That's like I told you earlier, my son is a sportscaster in Montana. He was willing to do that. I at the time wasn't.
Yeah, that's a big move, big culture change, everything, weather too.
Right. And probably not mature enough at the time to handle it for me.
Yeah, that is young to just move across.
Right.
When you so you graduate college and you're started some stuff, but then you're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna you jumped into teaching. How long between like graduating college and becoming a teacher? Did you go back to college for anything, or?
Yes, I had to go back to school. I was a history minor, which I just did as a lark. So I had the history credits, and you only needed 12 education credits to teach in New York City because they're always so desperate for anybody. So it took about 3 years from the time I graduated Oswego to get my first teaching job, which was in Long Island City in a junior high school. I had no idea what I was doing. I never even student taught. And
Wow.
it's yeah, probably one of the few teachers in New York State that never student taught. I sent out all the resumes into neighborhoods I thought were relatively safe, whatever that means.
Probably not many.
And one got back to me. It was in Long Island City, and they brought me in for an interview and said, "All right, well, we might be in touch, we might not." And I didn't think anything of it after that. And then I remember we had been away, and I got back. There was a message on my machine in days of answering machines that said, if you're interested, come in for an interview. And this was like 2 or 3 days before Labor Day weekend. And they said, if you want the job, it's yours. And I had to give my boss like 2 days notice, which was kind of weird.
At your current job. So you were, gotcha. What were you doing?
And I'll never forget, the woman was elderly woman, was a principal. And to me, she looked like she was 1,000. She was probably like 65. And she said, well, one last thing you should know, it takes a long time to get your first paycheck. I said, well, it's a long time. We weren't making much money. And she said, it could take 6 weeks to 3 months. I said,
man.
What? And she said, I'll never forget. She said, Mr. Hoffman, the wheels of the New York City Board of Education grind slowly. I go, can I tell my landlord that?
He'll understand.
That was rough, but I survived that, and I survived. My first 2 years were hell. I had some good classes, and I handled them fine, but I had some really tough ones, and keeping them in their seats was a good day. That's how crazy they were. But eventually I figured it out, and then we decided we want to get out of there. So my wife got a job with Montgomery Ward. It's not even around anymore. It's just a department store from the 1800s.
Oh,
I could see on your face you never heard of
I'm
them.
like, never heard of it. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I don't feel old or anything because of that. They used to be a big store. Anyway, so they were nice enough to move us up here, and that helped. And I subbed for a while, and then I got a job part-time in Rensselaer. And, Rensselaer is, people think of Rensselaer, think it's a tough area, or, the kids are probably tough, and they can be. But compared to the city, I mean, Rensselaer had the doors were wide open, no bars on the window.
Oh, wow.
We didn't have, crack addicts walking in like we did in Long Island City. So to me, it was, oh my God, this is paradise. So everyone's like, oh, it's a tough school. I'm like, I don't think so. It's all what you're used to, I guess.
Yeah,
but
anyway, you don't know where I
I
came from.
Yeah.
What year did you start teaching?
So I started in 89 in the city.
Okay.
I taught there till 93, came up here, subbed for a while, and then started Rensselaer in the fall of 94. And I was there till 2021. I retired. And then I came back, taught 4 more years part-time, just in the morning. So my wife was still several years away from retirement, and she wasn't as celebratory about my retirement as I was. So she said, you better do something. So they were nice enough to let me hang around for a while. So I did that for 4 years. And then we kind of had a mutual, all right, we both had enough of this last year. And so this is my first real full year retired.
That's cool. Congrats.
Thank you.
You must have seen, I mean, you're mentioning these years, you must have seen such difference in technology versus like I want to call them children, they're teenagers or whatever, but young adults. The way that technology, obviously in the 1990s, there was like nothing. And then the internet came out in the early 2000s, and then phones in like 2010. And now this AI overlord everywhere,
Right.
I can't imagine. You probably got out at the right time because it's chaos. Like no one knows what the kids are writing. The teachers are probably using ChatGPT too. And who wants it anymore? The world is changing.
Well, yes. I was just starting to catch on when I retired, when I walked away from part-time. When I retired, it still wasn't, I don't think, a thing in 2021. Or if it was, I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
But as my last couple of years part-time, I definitely saw the influence of it. I'd see it I had seniors. I had 2 senior classes, and one of them was sort of like an honors class. And I would ask, questions based on readings we were doing. And I could see the answers were, long and flowing, but very generic and not really. And I would constantly give it back and say, this isn't what I asked. right? Or, you're supposed to base this on the reading as opposed to, so I kind of knew what they were up to, but I was already part-time. I wasn't looking to, bring hell down upon them. I just wanted them to do it right. And that's what I would say. I go, look, I'm not going to get you in trouble. Just do it right.
Yep.
And usually they were pretty good about that. But it's easy to, if you're willing to read homework, which teachers are supposed to do, it's pretty easy to pick off.
Yeah.
You can just tell.
It's getting harder now, but I agree with you. And I think that there is going to be a big problem, not to make this about AI. It's a big part of my life personally, but even like we got an email the other day, obviously AI, from a teacher who recently complained about using AI. It's like, well, which one is it? Are you going to use it in an email to write, like take your agency away, or are you just going to say no AI? So it's like, make up your mind. And I think there's only one way out of it, is just to teach the kids how to use it responsibly and still use their brain. I know we're going to be using our brains different ways now, but it is what it is. You can't really turn back time.
Look, when the internet first really hit, I mean, I used to be able to, if I saw work that didn't look familiar, like it was in the kid's voice or kid's writing ability, I would just type it into Google, a sentence from what they wrote, and boom, it would come right up.
Yep.
That's not the problem. The problem is they're not sourcing it correctly or citing it correctly. So you're right, there's ways to use it. The bigger problem in education, I think AI can be managed. The biggest problem is the phones. Not only is it a constant distraction and fight in class, but it's ruined their attention. It's ruined everyone's attention span. I mean, adults are just as bad. Kids.
Yeah.
And I once had a kid say, if you had this technology when you were my age, you would have used it. I go, absolutely.
Yeah.
I doubt in my mind I would have used it.
Yeah.
So it's really wrecked kids' ability to focus and concentrate. And if they have it in class, forget it. No matter what you're doing, it's not as interesting as what they're looking at, as far as they're concerned.
Yeah.
So that's been the biggest negative in education, is the cell phone has took a wrecking ball to education like nothing else I've seen.
Yep, it has. They banned phones here at Shen. I don't know how, they're doing it. I know it's still kind of, they have whatever. There's like ways to get around it, I guess, and kids hiding stuff, but they haven't made the steps towards like, hey, no phones during the day at all. So we'll see where that goes.
It's got some effectiveness, probably more with the middle schoolers than with the high schoolers. But like my first 2 years part-time, I used to collect cell phones when they came into class. I had a thing up on the wall and I gave them a card, and they were usually really good about it. Nobody ever with kids, or teenagers, if you do it from day one and that's the way it is, they'll fall right in line, unless they're super belligerent or, whatever. But usually they'll fall right in line, but they're not stupid. And what they would do is they'd give you an old phone or a broken phone, and I'm like, didn't you hand in your phone? Yeah.
Yeah, that's my burner phone.
Yeah. They're always, if you make a rule, someone will figure out a way to break it.
Hey, just like the real world.
Just like the real world.
Yeah, they're learning how to live in the real world.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So you were a blogger too. Do you still blog? I mean, I see here you did for Albany Times Union, right? You had your own blog.
Mm-hmm.
You still doing it?
No. So it's funny. I was like slow to pick up on the whole blogging thing. And I sat down, I forget when, I was like, I'll try doing this. And, I wrote like a title, and then I was like, not ready to do this yet. Then some time went by. I said, I'm going to try this again. I look, and like 2 years had passed. I was like, holy crap, the time flies. So I started my own, and then I would send it to local papers, see if they'd pick it up. And this guy, Mike Huber, who ran the blog page at the Times Union, said, yeah, I've seen it. Keep writing and then get back to me. Like, you're not there yet.
Not ready yet.
Yeah, which was fine. I respected that. At least he acknowledged me. And I did it for a few more months, sent him again. And it just started out to be a comedy blog. It was just supposed to be funny, which is hard in writing because a lot of my humor is sarcastic and people don't always get it.
Yep.
They don't get the tone or anything. Yeah. So they just get insulted. Like I had an early blog in the Times Union where I had a picture of Hitler like at home reading the paper. And I don't even know why I used it. I used it to make some point, but mostly just to get a laugh. And somebody, they were allowed to comment on it. And ha, 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 Hitler, very funny. Like, yeah, he's been dead for 80 years. We can't have a picture of him. It's too soon.
Yeah, you can't be sarcastic online.
No, sarcasm gets lost.
It's hard.
One guy said his only comment was, "You're an effing moron." I deleted that one. It's the family newspaper. So anyway, Mike invited me to do it, and I really enjoyed it for a long time. Then he asked me to do one on education. So I was doing one on education, one for myself. Then it got kind of political. Trump became so omnipresent in our lives that you couldn't ignore him. So I started writing about him, and then it got political, and it was fine. I had a good time. But then around 2020 or so, I started finding it was harder to come up with topics. And that's kind of when all right, this is run its course. But what really ended it, I had begun to cut back because I was writing my first book anyway. But what really ended it was somebody else. I don't even know who wrote this. It's supposed to be tongue in cheek, I guess, or satire about Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman north of us. And I guess it was pretty harsh or pretty, I don't know. It was improper in some way. I never saw it. And I guess they said, enough of this. We're just going to close the whole thing down. So, no, and it was the right time for me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I enjoyed it while it lasted. And I might get back into it one day. But right now, I'm kind of like writing the fiction stuff.
Yeah, it does go hand in hand. I know we're going to talk about your first book here. Is it called Blindside, right?
Blind Spot.
Yeah, Blind Spot. I'm sorry, Blindside.
That's okay. I'm sure the 80 people who bought it are not insulted.
Like, that's not what it says here. Blogging and book, they are kind of intertwining now. Just people releasing almost, I don't know if you're on Substack. I'm not really into Substack yet, but I do see people releasing books in forms of blogging, almost saying, here's the first chapter. You could pay me whatever, $4 for this, and releasing it, even transcribing it using AI and putting it onto audiobooks like easily. So there is like this crossover happening where traditional books are always everybody loves it. My wife reads, we have books upstairs. Like I said, I don't really read. I don't read at all. I don't even say really, I just don't. But like that's just my own patience level thing. But books will never go away. Books will never go away.
That's funny you say that because my oldest brother, who was also my editor, is a college professor, English professor. And he had told me once that, you've heard of Charles Dickens, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So when he wrote like Christmas Carol and his and other things, other books that he wrote, Oliver Twist and whatever, he used to turn them out one chapter at a time into what was, I guess, some sort of literary magazine.
Interesting.
So in a way, that was kind of, it's not really a new idea. It's kind of a recycled old idea with modern technology.
Yeah.
I'm on Substack only in that I thought it might benefit me in some way, but I haven't figured out how to utilize it. But if that's what they do, I probably should have put a little more, or maybe I will put more energy into it. So I'm familiar with it, but I don't know a lot about how it works.
Yeah, there's many ways to do it too. Like even after this, if you want to keep in touch, there's ways to monetize it. Even on like your own website, you just have people pay with. I don't want to get into it, but like they could pay right there, even with crypto or anything, and purchase it, and you don't have to deal with the man or like because they take money away. When you use these services, they'll be like, we take 4% of each, which isn't a lot. I get it, but if you can keep it all, why not? And have ownership of it too, because they'll increase their prices in the future. But that's neither here nor there. Let's just talk about this first one, Blind Spot. I'm going to get it right. You mind talking about it real quick?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I decided I wanted to do a work of fiction. And so I would try to write down ideas, but nothing was really popping out at me. And without getting too specific, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but there was an individual who had been in our life for a long time, very nice person, but could rub me the wrong way. And they're a bit of a chatterbox, like type of person, if you're in a hurry, you're not going anywhere. You're going to have to probably like cancel your appointment because they'll just.
I know some people like that.
Yeah, we all do. So I saw this individual in a local supermarket where I had just run out to get something. It was like a nice hot sunny day. And I think we had just put in a pool. So I was like, I want to get back, pool was still a novelty. And I saw them on the other side of the supermarket and I was like, oh, Christ. So I kind of like zipped to the cashier, and I was like, I did not want to see this person. And I get in the car, turn it on, I throw it into reverse, and I'm ready to back out. And I said, wait, idiot, what are you doing? You might hit somebody just to get away from something. Like, okay. And then I started thinking, what if I run over that person? If that person had just been behind me and I had like in such a rush, I'd actually hit the person I was trying to avoid. I thought that could be funny, right? Or at least interesting. So that was the kind of where that idea came from. So it's a story about a guy who's, husband, father, living on Long Island. and has a good career, makes a living, nice wife, pretty. She has her own career, kids are healthy, everything's good. But then this woman who's a German immigrant, um, who's in her 60s or 70s at the time. I set the book in like the 80s or 90s. It was kind of my way of like not having to deal with modern technology like cell phones and things like that, just so I
Mm.
could focus on the story. And I wanted her to be young enough to be vibrant, but old enough to be a pain in the ass, you know? And so she was this old German immigrant woman. And I told this book is I tell his story and I tell her story, and then they come together as neighbors. They're like their lines cross. And she drives him crazy as she criticizes, she second guesses, points out all his mistakes. If he's cutting the lawn, oh look, you missed a spot here. You just nothing malicious. She
Yeah,
doesn't think she's being bad, just a pain in
just
the
enough.
ass. Yeah, and it
Very.
and nobody else sees it. And he complains to his wife, complains to, "You're crazy. She's a sweet old lady," and it makes him mental to the point where he can't even stand to be around her. And so in the story, he's in the supermarket, sees her, runs out, throws the car on. Except this time, he runs her over, and then she survives, and then he can't face her, and everyone's like, his wife's like, I don't know if I can be married to a man who won't deal with his whole, his job starts getting affected, and so he's like, I have to deal with this. And so he goes over, and at first it's very uneasy, but then eventually they forge a real close friendship, almost to the point where the wife starts to get jealous. Like, why you spend all your time over there and all this other stuff, and it goes from there. So that was where that story came from.
I like it. It's like simple. It's something that could happen to anybody, and it is kind of like a turnaround story where, so it came to your head while you were doing this. You're like, hey, and did you write the book? Like, I just hit the microphone, but like, I got excited. Did you write it all in one, like, oh, here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end? Or did you like go home and say, oh, actually they reunite at the end? Did that come later? Or was it kind of like this instant, hey, I have the book in my head right now?
That's a good question. I don't like, I know a lot of people storyboard things or they have very detailed outlines and whatever. That's not the way I work. I have a general idea of where I want it to go. And so I keep sort of an ongoing outline, then I change it as it goes. But I didn't know how it was. I mean, you end up writing, I can't speak for other people who write, but I imagine you end up writing 5, 6 different endings. And I tried out a few until I finally came to the one that I liked. And so it takes a long time to come up with an ending. So I know I didn't start it with the action. I just started telling his story, and then I was going to tell her story. And then my wife or somebody said, "There's no hook at the beginning of this book. Why do I want to find out more about some guy?" And that's when I said, "Okay, I'll start with the accident."
Hmm.
And then from there, you start telling the story. It's like, all right, this guy just ran over some old lady. Who is this guy and who's this old lady? And then you get into the story. So it was a real learning process for me because I had never tried anything like this before.
Yeah, that
But
is
as far as
interesting.
like where it's going, kind of like wherever it leads you is
Mhm.
kind of, and I also write in short spurts. Like I know some people can sit there for hours. My attention span's as bad as any teenager. So 10 minutes here, half hour there. Yeah, I can't sit for a very long time and just write.
How long did that first book take you? Did the first book take longer than the second book?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they took both about the same amount of time, probably a year and a half to 2 years. Because
Okay.
like I said, I don't sit for long periods of time. Sometimes I'll let it go for a while, especially if I feel like I've hit a dead end. It's like, all right, well, I got to walk away for a while until something comes to me. What'll happen is, so I'll write pages and then get enough so where I'll send it to my brother and he'll tell me, all right, this looks good, or this is going nowhere. You might want to start over. Like the book, the new one, Taken to the Grave, is about 290 pages, give or take. Originally it was 600.
Oh wow,
So we
about
cut
a
a
year and
lot.
a half.
Yeah,
Wow.
we cut a lot. But that's the way it is. And it's a totally, I mean, the original story there was really more about a history of Jamestown, New York, and how it played out for these two individuals and what happened as a result. So it was almost like, because I'm a history teacher, I like history. So I was going to write a history of the city. And then how does this history play out in these two individuals? But it was too much. It was too
Yeah.
crazy, too unwieldy, and eventually I had my brother's like, "I don't think you can go forward with this." So I kind of went back to the drawing board, kept the parts I liked, and then changed it. And even then, it was still way too long. But I think that's the way it always is.
Yeah, cutting it down for even anything, even content for websites. When I get it, it'll be like 100, and we're like, no, no, cut it down, and then cut it down again because most of it doesn't need to be there. Especially, I love the point you just made about starting with the accident because it's like a lot of these movies they do, or I'm gonna say movies because I watch movies more than books, but like it'll be like, why do I care about this character at all? And it's just this slow build. But if you get something up front that's like, we're not stupid, we can all understand what's happening now. I think our brains are faster maybe because of the internet and stuff, but like start me off with something that just puts me right into it rather than a slow build. Who wants a slow build anymore? Was Is the next book Taken to the Grave? Does that start with a thing like a hook right away, or is it kind
So
of
again, I jumped into the story, and again, my wife, my brother, somebody said, "Where's the hook? Why do I care about these people?" Like, yeah, here we go. So no, it starts with a scene where the main character, who's based on my wife, because the story is based on her experiences. The character's name's Maria, is with her husband, and they're driving home from what's supposed to be Jamestown. I renamed it Lindsborg, which is, I got it some town in Sweden somewhere, and I think there's a town in Minnesota maybe too. But anyway, and they're on their way home, and she's still frustrated about this thing that's bothering her. And eventually they get home, and she says, "Oh, I have some work to do. I'll head out. See you later. Yeah, whatever." And she starts researching mediums. Like
Mm,
not fortune tellers, people who speak to the dead or whatever. And it's like the one thing she hasn't tried. And she's a math professor, so her whole life is logic and problem solving, and she's not into any weird stuff or anything. She's very logical, but she's so desperate for answers, she's willing to turn to something that's totally outside her character, right? No type of thing you'd think she would mock, now she's turning to. And so in the opening chapter, she researches it and then goes to see a medium out in they live in Ballston Spa in the book. So I
okay.
didn't want to make Clifton
Have
Park.
some.
Yeah, I figured what's a town right next to Clifton Park that I know fairly well. So they live in Ballston Spa. She finds a medium out in Fonda. And the only reason I knew anything about Fonda was when I first moved up here, I used to teach in Rensselaer, but I also taught in Shelmont part-time. And I ended up coaching JV football there. And I remember we played Fonda. And that was when I first moved up. I didn't know the area,
Mm,
but it's like a small farming community or whatever. And anyway, so she goes to Fonda and meets with the medium. And first, it's very, the medium's giving her all the generalistic platitudes that mediums do, like, "Oh, there's an old woman looking out for you," and she's like, "Yeah, I had a grandmother. That's
of
not."
course there is.
Yeah, there's always, "Did you lose a brother in a drowning?" "No, I didn't." So like that type of stuff. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, like the woman's whole tone changes, and there's like a shiver in the room, and like I see a woman, and there's another woman, and somebody's hurting her and not letting her talk, and the character's like, who, you can't know this. This is not for you to know. She's like, no, you must tell me. And that's how the first chapter ends. So hopefully
Mm,
that builds a little bit of suspense.
yeah, that does. It makes
Enough
me.
to take you through the rest.
I know. It makes me want to read it. So maybe you do. Have you done audiobooks? Have you thought
I,
about that?
I've never done an audiobook. I don't know what that would entail. I mean, I think if I ever really sold enough where I was making a little bit of money. Right now I'm kind of, I've tried, I don't invest too much. I paid for a couple of review promotions, not much. I have to buy authors' copies from Amazon, so that costs a little bit of money. I've sort of made that back in the sales I've done so far. If I ever really started profiting, I would consider. I know a lot of people love. In fact, my wife loves audiobooks. So I would do it if it was, I'd see what it costs and everything. But yeah, that'd be cool. Why not?
It's cheaper now. There's
Yeah, well, like, what would do you have
Yeah,
any?
there's something called 11 Labs where you can pretty much paste in the book in segments and use the same voice. You can even set tonality. So, like, obviously, you don't want, I don't know how intense you want to get in there, but you could say, like, this line with brackets, surprise, this is how they say it. And oh, it sounds, you can't tell the difference between human and so it's cheaper than ever. And you can just publish to Kindle now. It's probably under $1,000 to get it
Hmm.
on Kindle. And so I don't know. It's out there though, you know?
Something to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Are you gonna write another book?
Yes, I already started, and then I got away from it because now I'm trying to figure out ways to promote this one.
Mm,
But I'll probably work on promotions through, let's say, at least the end of April, because like I said, I have some author events And
Yep.
I know I have my niece-in-law is an Instagram book person, so she's reviewing it now, and hopefully that'll get some looks. I have the TikTok thing with my ex-student there, former student, so he's helping me with that. So probably wrap all that up by the end of April, I think, and then I'll get back into it. But my next book is I think it's going to be like 3 short stories, like 3 100-page stories. So one is about a guy who's having a breakdown mentally, and he imagines. I don't know if you're familiar with Greek philosophy. You know Socrates. Have you ever heard of Socrates? Probably read about him a little bit in school. So the Greek philosopher who answered every question with a question,
Okay.
and he was basically like a nudge. He was a pain in the neck. And eventually, they find him guilty of corrupting the youth of Athens, and he's either given a choice. He can either escape or kill himself. And of course, because he's a jerk, he kills himself, right? He'd rather
Yeah.
do that than escape. So he imagines Socrates almost like a schizophrenic, where he's talking to him as if he's there, and Socrates makes him nuts. And eventually tell you what happens, but that's kind of like it's wrecking his life. So that's
Interesting.
one. Then the second, I had an idea that some guys, and again, I like history, so I talk about history. So some guys living in the Soviet Union during Stalin's time, and Stalin always hired doubles because he was always worried about assassination and being poisoned, whatever. So, and usually you kill them off after a while, because if they knew too much or saw too much, they had to go. And so he has this double, but he takes a liking to him and they become buddies. Like the guy, I haven't even written this one. This is just what I've been thinking about. And the guy like really likes Stalin, and Stalin likes him, and Stalin, lets him see all the bad things he's doing. And they become like, Abbott and Costello, really good friends. But then of course he'll have to be killed because it's Stalin. So everybody gets killed. So I'm hoping I can find humor in that one, because they're all supposed to be funny. And then I have I've been writing some ideas now for the third one, but I don't know what it is. But I think short story might be a little easier. Like my original idea for Taking the Grave was to have about 8 or 9 narrators, like
Mm.
8 or 9 different voices in the book, telling the story from different perspectives. And again, it was just too much. I mean, there's only really 2 narrators in this one, and I've had people say like, "Oh, I got confused." I'm like, look at the first page of the chapter. It says who's talking,
Who's
and it's only 2.
narrating?
So, but
Like
whatever.
per chapter. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's inevitable. People will get confused.
they do. They do. Right? They're not reading it the way read it the way I do. But that's all right. Whatever. So anyway, I've been wanting to try something that's more like that I would really enjoy. Trying to be funny and also writing about history. 2 things I
Mm.
like. So
It's
we'll
almost
see.
like bringing your blogging back into
Yes.
this type of
Yes.
shorter, condensed, bite-sized, funnier, sarcastic. Maybe it's better. Obviously, like the web is different. Sarcasm doesn't come across, but books, you have more time to get into it and to really build up that humor, or at least identify the author's personality, instead of just seeing like a little blog post and be like, what the hell, what does this mean? And not getting it.
Right. Right. Yeah. This might play into my interests or abilities, whatever they may be, a little bit more. But it is hard, because if you're harsh for humor, then people are very turned off, or you're I don't know, you're sexist, you're racist, whatever. I mean, the sensibilities have changed so much. Like satire has become a lost art to some degree. This is before your time. There was a very big, famous show in the 1970s called All in the Family, and
Hmm.
the lead character was a horrible bigot.
Al
And
Bunker.
Archie Bunker, yeah, he wasn't a
Archie.
bigot with a heart of gold. He was a bigot, right? And he said terrible things, and he did some terrible things, and people loved him at the time, which is kind of funny. But most people who had half a brain realized he's not being put up to be appreciated. He's being put up to be made fun of, right? It's a
Yep.
world is changing, and he's not changing with it. And he's a fool, but it's written so well that it's clever and it's funny. But he does say terrible things. But people are like, okay, well, this is a guy saying terrible things, but he kind of he got his lesson in the end of every episode, more or less. He paid for his racism or whatever. I mean, now people would be run for the hills if they saw what he said. They wouldn't get, they don't get the satire of
Yep.
it. That no, we're not holding him up. Just because you're using those words doesn't mean you should run to your safe room.
Yep.
Understand who's saying it. It was one of the things that was frustrating as a teacher, trying to explain to students that, racism was real, and to understand, you have to see how people spoke in those days and what they thought. And oh no, if I even see that word, I'm gonna be so triggered. I'm like, I get that, but we're
Yep.
not celebrating the word. We're just that's how people spoke.
Yep.
But it seems like a lot of young people can't handle that. So
Yeah,
unfortunately,
and it's just about realism too. Like you can't prevent everything from happening. You can't prevent people's thoughts. You can't prevent where they're coming from or what they were taught either. Sometimes you have to accept that it's out there and you can't like shelter yourself in safe room or safe space and all this.
hmm
So I agree with you 100%. And you'd think, oh, I mean, I'm 44 and I was raised by my grandmother. She watched All in the Family. So I do have, even though I called him Al Bunker, which I'm thinking of the Married with Children. I got them mixed
Oh,
up.
Al Bundy.
Al Bundy, that's his name. I do remember the theme song, even the theme song for All in the Family, where they say, girls are girls and men were men. This whole, I was talking about it just a couple months ago with my wife. I'm like, listen to this song. I feel like if they had this as a theme song now, they'd be like, no, you can't have that on TV. There's
You're
no way.
leaving out so many different communities. Yes, because that's the world these people knew. I'm not
Yeah.
saying they're right, but that's how they saw the world.
Yeah.
And that was the world they were brought up in.
They
But
said,
but even that can,
didn't need no welfare state.
yeah, right,
Right.
right. Their sensibilities are so different. But
Mm.
now, if your sensibilities aren't, whatever is the newest thing, you're seen as, you should be put out to pasture. It's not your world anymore. So it's a young person's world, always has been.
Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah, it's generational divides. I feel like generations are taught to both ways too. Old be like, oh, look at these stupid, youngsters, and the young ones are like, look at these boomers with their houses that cost $20. So it's like this never ending.
It's
I
true.
try to, so
Very
it's never going to end. Get over. I do want to cover a couple of things. There's a QR at the side, so any viewers you see, and you can also share this QR code. That'll open up your profile page on Clifton Park Spark. It has links to your social media, links to where somebody can buy the book, Taken to the Grave. Also, you're going to be at Mocha Lisa's coming up when for this
I
author?
believe it's gonna be the 25th. Probably gonna they have a couple of shifts. It's multiple local authors. So I probably, because I have to go somewhere later that day, probably gonna do like 9:30 to 11, if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken. I like doing like 11 to 1, you get more traffic, but I think my wife and I are going somewhere that day. So I'll probably be there in the morning, 9:30, 11 with some other local authors. That's right in Clifton Country Mall.
Yep. Yeah. When you find out the exact time, just let me know. Or I'll probably contact you, but we can add that to the website too to increase people coming there, hopefully.
Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah. Do you
And
have a
I was
you
just gonna
go.
say, and also
Mm.
I'll be, I know Waterford isn't Clifton Park and never will be, but sorry, Waterford. But I will be in,
What?
that's right. I get all this hate from Waterford. I love Waterford. First place I subbed was Waterford Middle High School, and the kids were very good 2 years ago. So gonna be doing an author thing, and I think it's called Golden Leaf Bookstore, and my book's on sale there now in Waterford. It's a cool little bookstore. The guy who runs it with his dog, like, it's him and his dog. His dog is like the vice president of operations, but super nice guy. And I'll be doing an event on my own, 12 to 4 on April 18th, which is also a Saturday. So I'll be there. You can get a signed copy or ask me anything, within reason.
So the event in Waterford is just you.
Just me, yes, for
That's good.
4 hours. So come by because,
Man, so you're gonna be signing books too?
if people want their book signed, I'm happy to do it.
That's cool. Both books or just the Taken to the Grave?
I'll probably bring both books. Yeah, why not? That's a good idea.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah, why not? I still have some copies of that one, so sure.
Do you have any favorite local authors that like do you talk I don't know about how local authors deal with each other. Is there like just this community or is it dispersed enough where you don't have a favorite local author or do you? I'm just curious.
I don't really have a favorite a favorite local author. I do meet them at some of these events. They're very nice people. There was a very nice gentleman I met at a Mocha Lisa event who wrote like a travel book. He went like I-95 all the way and just like kept a journal type thing. And of course, I can't remember his name or the name of the book, so it's kind of useless. But it was kind of nice meeting him. And I was telling you before we got on that there was some woman who was a health advocate for her son who was sick. I think he may have had cancer. I can't remember. And it was, it's a really inspiring story, especially compared to my story about a guy running over his neighbors. I felt like a bit of a doofus. Hey, it can only be me, right? But yeah, so I do meet a lot of nice people. There's a guy who writes these sort of Game of Thrones-ish books who I've met, older gentleman, and his name's Bruce something. Again, I'm so bad with names. But anyway, so I've met some nice people, and I have a writing partner that I'm writing a sitcom with, or a streaming sitcom. His name is Dave Kalish. I'll give him a shout out. And Dave's published some books. He was a writer for Associated Press, and his books have done. He wrote one that actually got featured in the New York Times, I think. Maybe I have that
Wow.
story off a little bit, but that was about 10 years ago. And he had some success with that. So, and I met him. He was a blogger also. And I met some bloggers that way, some very nice people. So, yeah, I don't, make it a point to like go out of my way to meet local authors. But when I meet them, they're usually very nice.
That's good. It's not like a tense situation. Like, I want to
No,
sell my book
no.
to you. Well,
People are
this
generally pretty supportive.
the web. So you're talking about the sitcom. What is this also a comedy of sorts?
Yes. Yes, this is a comedy of sorts. Dave and I have been writing stuff together for about 3 or 4 years now, maybe more. And like I said, I met him through blogging for the Times Union. And we tried some different stuff, and I didn't feel comfortable with what we had written. It was fun to try, but I just it was too outside my whatever my lane is. And I said, "Well, why don't we write about what we know? You were a reporter. I was a teacher. Use that as sort of a starting point. We're both like in our early 60s, getting more curmudgeon as the days go by. And I don't know if you're a fan of Larry David and Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I've never seen it. It's odd. I know people have told me to watch it before, but
It's it's not for everybody because again, the humor is very sort of dark, and he's not a good person, right? He's a little bit like a more modern Archie Bunker. You don't have the racism and everything, but he's an older guy who's out of touch and doesn't care. And doesn't care who he offends, and says things that are completely not racially, and although sometimes he does get himself in trouble racially, but just inappropriate at the time. Like if he sees somebody who's overweight, he'll be like, you really shouldn't be eating so much. Like that type. At one point, they call him a social assassin. Right? He just goes out in society and assassinates anybody he sees. So we were thinking of something like that, but you don't want to copy what's been done. So eventually we came up with an idea of a guy who was a reporter on Long Island and his own column had done very well. And because newspapers are dead or soon to be dead, other than maybe the New York Times, he gets fired or he gets laid off. And he's in his early 60s. So is he going to retire? Blah, blah, blah. And his wife is a nurse, but she's a nurse in a bad area in New York City. And she's kind of had it. And she says, and the character is originally from Schenectady, and he got out of Schenectady and was happy to escape it. She's like, why don't we go back to Schenectady? Your parents are still alive. They live there. It's cheaper. I don't want to go back to Schenectady. I'll feel like a failure. And he ends up going back to Schenectady and gets a job as an adjunct college professor teaching journalism to freshmen who don't care. And he's got to deal with that major career come down and the humiliation of him saying, I wrote this story. And they're on their phone saying, yeah, that type of thing. And his adventures from there. So we've
cool.
entered some contests and, trying to get a little traction.
I like how a lot of your ideas, and I know this is co-written, but they're almost like real life. They happen to be intertwined with your actual life, like this teaching and obviously the driving situation and the real life story about taking to the grave. So it's like they're not random. It seems like it's almost like a lore of your life,
Yeah. Well, you write what you know.
Mm.
And then you try to either make it funny or more dramatic or exaggerate it in some way. So even if it's like taking the grave, my wife did have a major surprise in her, what do they call it now? Origin story.
Mm-hmm.
And it threw her for a major loop, and it was really difficult. And eventually she came out and she's fine. But, I don't follow it word for word and how it went because it plays out over a long period of time. So you have to, cut and snip and embellish, and you have to make it more interesting because real life isn't always that interesting, but sometimes there's enough in real life where you can make something out of it. And so that's what I think most writing is. The people come up with things out of nowhere, and that's someone like the guy who wrote Game of Thrones. I mean, what an imagination he has.
Yeah,
they're the best of the best.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. Like I was gonna say, Stephen King. Like obviously, he's not living. I don't. Hopefully not. Maybe he is. These situations that he writes about, So like, where is he getting them? Who knows where he's getting them? But I'm assuming like it's different than an author like you, where it's like pulling pieces of your life and be like, this would make a good story. Let me make it better, where he's over there just,
Yeah, that, like I said, they're the best of the best. The really good writers, I mean, science fiction is one thing, but the really good writers are the ones who are able to see not just what's happening at the time, but where things are going. Right? If you take, again, I know you're not a reader, but Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 4,
that's actually one of my literal favorite books.
right.
I know it's
Oh,
simple
good,
too.
good.
451, Animal Farm. Like I've read these
Oh, those are
essentially.
classics. That's
I haven't
great.
been to 1984 sitting in the closet. I swear to God, I'm going to do it. I'm about 80 pages in. It's only taken about 5 years, but like Fahrenheit 451 stuck with me forever, and I think that there are some books that, whether or not I'm a reader, that will stick with you, whether you are into it or not, and things that come true throughout life too. And you're like, wait a second, I read this in a book once,
That's right,
So,
and it helps you as a if you decide one day you wanna be a writer of whatever. It's
mm,
nice to have literary ideas from things you've read. To write, you have to have read, I think, and others may disagree, but I think you have to have read some stuff just to get ideas on how to make things happen, and you think about Fahrenheit 451, it was written in the late '40s, like 1949, 1950. TV had literally just started, and he already said, "This
the
is a
walls.
ticket to nowhere. This is
Yeah,
this is."
weren't they talking about the walls of TVs and the wife would talk to the TVs and be part of the soap opera? I remember that vividly, and it's always stuck with me. And it's like,
And it was a
how the
great
hell?
distraction. It was garbage, and it was
Mhm.
garbage meant to distract you.
That's
Now,
right.
this is when it was in its infancy, and this guy already figured out, "I see where this is going, and it's bad."
Yep.
And he's brilliant, right? That's the
Yep.
difference between him and, the rest of us schmoes, but think of how smart you have to be to figure out, "I see where this is going, and it's not good." And
Yeah,
that's
that
really
early.
impressive.
That is really impressive because it's more and more truer and truer, as we move on. Have you ever seen Black Mirror on Netflix?
No, no.
Really? You should check it out. It's about technology. It's a series. Each one is a different. You can jump in anywhere. It's not like a ongoing thing. Each one of those things over the last few years has come true and more come true. It's really kind of like a Fahrenheit 451 modernized with AI technology, VR, stuff
Right.
like that. I think you would be into it. Very good storytelling in a 30 to 40-minute blob.
Oh,
It's on
that sounds
Netflix.
good. I wanna give you a warning on 1984. The first half of it is slow.
That's
That's probably why it's taking you 4 years to go 80 pages or 5
yeah.
years. But if you can get past the first half and get into the second half of the book, it does pick up and it gets pretty crazy.
Okay. Okay, I wanted to. I think the last podcast I had was with Cheryl Campbell, which was she's awesome. She's also an author, and she was telling me to meditate. And literally the next day, I got up and I meditated, and I felt good. So now I think I'm gonna actually jump back into 1984
There you go.
per
But
your
as
advice.
you're slogging through the first half, just say, "This better that guy told me it gets better. This better get better.
Like, damn you, Robert S. Hoffman, you
You've
told
wrecked my
me.
life."
Oh man, I have a quick question about Clifton Park. Favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant, Cliff? Boy, that's tough. Well, for pizza, it would be the Caputo's or Venezia's.
Okay.
For wings, Rusty Nail is definitely the best. What else do we like? I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this. It's usually right in my belly.
You get free wings on your birthday at Rusty Nail, right?
Yes, we've done that. Well, my wife's a twin, so we once had the two of them in there, and they were already in their 50s, and
That's
we
crazy.
we couldn't finish. It was too much.
That's funny.
But we like Powers too.
Yep.
That's a
They say
really
it's
nice one.
haunted, Powers. Have you heard that whole
Say again?
Powers is haunted? Have you heard that story?
I have not heard that, but the building's like 240 years old or something crazy
Yeah,
like.
look it up. Upstairs, they have a whole like scenario with a woman dressed in white, and it's a ghost. You can look it up online and ask the person. We went there just a couple times now, and they said, "Do you want? Have you ever been to Peddlers?
Sure.
They're good, and they have these Bavarian pretzels, so good." And then we went to Powers, and at Powers, they call them Wednesday sticks, which is just a really weird name. They're like, "Do you want Wednesday sticks?" And we asked about the ghosts, and they do say that there's disturbances upstairs. This isn't a paranormal podcast. I am into it though, and it looks like the name of your book actually suggests this kind of like doom and gloom. There's a graveyard behind us right now, so yeah, look it up because it is interesting. It's right in
I
our
will. We
backyard.
we go there fairly often. All right, I'm gonna have to do some digging next time I'm there.
Yeah, could be the fourth part of your next upcoming book.
The Ghost and
Yeah, Caputo's is good. Oh man, I'm hungry now actually. So
Yeah, well, I like Caputo's because it's very Long Island style pizza. So it
then,
reminds me
mhm.
of Long Island. And I love again, I even though I escaped Long Island, there's a few things I miss. I miss the pizza, Chinese food, and the bagels of downstate too. Although on Common Grounds is pretty good. They're the one exception up here.
Have you tried West End bagels?
I have. They're not bad. They're
Yeah,
not bad. On
on
Common
common
Grounds, they
ground.
really taste similar to Long Island style.
Interesting. Okay. I gotta get to Long Island. I don't know why I've never been there.
Well, so I would say that there's really I would go in the summer and go to the beach. They got some really nice beaches there, like Jones Beach or something like that. You can go out east, like Orient Point or Montauk Point. Those are nice. The Hamptons is nice to drive around in, but that's for the that's for when your podcast goes international.
Yeah, be like, hey, we're going to the Hamptons. Come on,
Yeah,
baby.
it's
Drive a
it's a little out of
convertible.
most people's price range, but you can drive around. That's free.
Yeah, that's exactly. Just do some gas money.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, it's really people live in Long Island, but everyone goes to the city. So
Hmm. I have one more question for you.
sure.
And it's just about authors and books and stuff. There are some authors that have been accused of, and I see it too, writing using AI. And like we kind of talked about before, it does, I believe, and I think you kind of agree, it takes away your agency. It can write good if you prompt it right and stuff like that. And some people are actually seeing these books, even media, like movies too, but let's just stick with books, as the new form of book, meaning like they'll read this book and they'll enjoy it, maybe spitefully, I don't know, or maybe just like they're looking at it like, yeah, I do that. What are your thoughts on it? I have my own thoughts on just reading a book that, whether it be hybrid, meaning like a human, and then they're using the AI to like embellish or add different sections in between to connect things or add twists, or just a completely AI written book. What is your thought on that being the future of, I guess?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna produce a book using AI and you tell everybody it was written by AI, then they know what they're getting themselves into. And if
Yeah.
that gives you satisfaction to do that, like I had an idea of a man who stalked this woman and blah 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 happened. Go and put it into
Yeah.
AI and it produces a story and say, here, AI wrote this, enjoy. If the reader knows that and you're satisfied with that as your art, go for it. But I mean, I know whenever I write to agents or publishers to try to get a deal or whatever, and they're like, if any part of this is done by AI, we'll have you castrated or whatever.
Oh.
Uh, I know they're
When you
very
find them.
anti-AI. I get that. That's fine. But on the other, if I can play devil's advocate, so I'm writing a book and I don't have the means to travel. Let's say I'm writing a book about the Stalin thing. I don't have the means to travel to Russia and do research, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So if I look something up on the internet, if I Google how many people Stalin killed and what methods did he use, how is that different than using AI? Yet nobody would have a problem with that. If I say, according to RussianHistory.com, Stalin murdered 20 million people, is that so much better than, hey Siri or hey
Mhm.
ChatGPT, tell me about Stalin's reign of terror? And it gives me a whole readout and I take stuff from that to tell my story. What's the difference?
Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, you're kind of using it as reference versus actually using the words, though. I think I'm more talking about like saying, hey, just like you said, I have this idea, generate a story, that's more. But I agree. Like even just recently, just yesterday, actually, AI, it can't be copywritten art. So that was like a law that they passed, but it's still kind of in where you say, well, what if I take that and put it in Photoshop and then rearrange it? And then is it mine now? Where does that end? Where does that advice from ChatGPT or Siri or Alexa become? Actually, I didn't travel to Russia. I don't know anything about it, but here's the facts, and now I integrated it into the story, so, but
Yeah,
I guess
no,
I'm more saying like,
I hear what you're saying. No, it's not being creative in any way. I mean, as far as being a creative art or authoring something, if you say, "Here's an idea, write me a story," and say, "Hey, look what I did," then you're a fraud. And
yeah,
and I get why people get so bent out of shape about it. It's wrong. Just like it's wrong when students use it to do homework. Is it wrong for a teacher to put it in, say, "Give me a lesson plan"? A lot of people are bent out of shape about that, but I mean, the teacher's not making money off that. Now, if the teacher has a website and says you can have this lesson plan for $20 and the AI created it, well, that's kind of murky, right? That's not
Yep.
so good. But if I'm looking for an interesting way to engage students on whatever World War II, and I say, hey, ChatGPT, give me an interesting lesson plan on World War II, who's hurt by that?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
mean, all teachers steal from different things. Now, what I would do sometimes, especially when I first started putting my lesson plans or my notes on PowerPoint, is I wanted to see what others had done. And that kind of gave me ideas on what, how I wanted to do it. It's hard to use somebody else's stuff and then teach it like it's your own anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't see it as such a, and maybe it's my teacher bias. I don't see it as so terrible if ChatGPT writes you a good lesson plan that engages the kids and you're not profiting off it. But at the same time, I could see a kid saying, because kids think like this, so you can do it, but I can't. And
Hmm.
that's when I say, well, I'm paid to be here and you're not. Whatever. Like we're here for the same reason, but our motivations are different. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But I see. But if you're going to write a book, or you're going to have AI write you a book and pass it on your own, well, that's fraud.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I do think this hybrid approach is kind of where it's going. Whether for positive or negative is kind of like there's no turning back, as we said in the beginning. Like you can't really shut it off now. And it's just moving forward and learning how to live alongside of it and not be a fraud, in life.
To me, yeah. To me, what's much worse is what's done to news and information. You
Mm,
just don't know what's real and what isn't.
nope.
And unless you're willing to totally invest your time into researching what you're seeing, especially Twitter or whatever they call it these days, I mean, it's such a cesspool of AI generated nonsense.
Yeah.
Who even knows
Yeah.
what's real and what isn't? And some of it's so good. So
Can't tell.
and like in regular times, all right, so it's just regular political propaganda, but now we're in a war, right? Or a war of sorts. And you'll read things and see pictures and like, did that happen? Has all our defenses been destroyed? Is Iran ready to surrender? Like, what's real?
Yeah.
Whatever side you're on or whatever you want to see happen in this, you want facts, don't you?
Yep. Facts
And
are,
where do you go? Where do you look?
I don't know.
And
It's
that's
true.
bad. That's
It
bad.
is bad. They
Our
did this rule, speaking of kind of another law that passed, but within X, they are saying now if you post anything that turns out to be AI and war, then you're banned. I think it's banned for 30 days or demonetized. I forget which one, but they are taking steps towards it, but
But
you
Elon Musk is one of the biggest abusers of that.
I know with the whole
Puts out
God,
AI crap all the time.
maybe he'll get banned from X for 30 days and demonetized.
He needs to be banned
Give
from
us the
something.
money on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, and I agree, and I was talking to someone yesterday about this, but, like, I think it's going to introduce more, which is weird, but, like, we're gonna be sick of it really soon if we're not already, and the internet has been ruined and is dead and is dying, and I think that is gonna bring back, like, just humanity, like, this kinda, like, going to Mocha Lisa and meeting people in person because at least right now, at least, that they're not AI, and you can talk to them, you can see them, you can feel their hand when they shake it, and otherwise we're trusting things that you never know. And
Right.
also confirmation bias and the algorithm itself is showing you things that you want or it believes you want to see or it wants to anger you, you know what I mean? So it's just getting out there. I believe that humanity, maybe this is a good thing, and I'm all about the internet, and this is what I was raised as a 40-year-old, and I started coding as a child, but I can see where it's going in the wrong direction now. So
Right. Everything has the potential, like AI has the potential probably to cure cancer and do all these wonderful things. Or if I would need to fix whatever plumbing, ChatGPT, I have a sink with a link, it's blah, 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 bam. And it's great. There's
definitely.
so many, and YouTube's the same way, right? There's so many great things out there. Does the benefit get outweighed by the damage? And it seems like it is. As
Mm,
good as some of that stuff is, I mean, there's been a total loss of trust in institutions, right? We don't know who to trust in media. We certainly know which politician to trust. We don't trust our teachers anymore. And then you have people, like LeBron James. I have nothing against him, but like I remember during COVID, he's like, "Do your own research." I'm like, "Yeah, let me get my lab up and running so I can do some research." LeBron, you
violence.
never even went to college, but you did your research. You know how vaccines work on a molecular level. Good for you, big man. Like I don't know how they work, right? I
Yeah.
think other than doctors and scientists, they're the only ones who know how it works, but we don't trust them. anymore. So we trust the internet or whatever. So yeah, we're in a tough spot right now. It's not I mean, there's always trouble all through history. History's filled with trouble, right?
Mhm.
And danger. But we're in a new type of trouble, a new type of danger. And I don't think it's so good. But
Yeah. It's almost like that saying, like, "This is why we can't have nice things." Yeah.
that's right. That's why we
Yeah.
can't have a nice planet.
I know. You could have this AI trying to solve cancer, and then the other side of it, there's a video of a lady with puppies growing out of her head, and it's like, this is what we're wasting this beautiful technology on.
I know it's as someone like yourself who's very adept at it. I'm sure you sit there and go, no, don't use it for that. That's not the idea.
All the
But
time.
people are going to do with it what they do, as you know.
Yeah. I don't give it agency to ideas, or I don't want its opinion. I don't gender it. I don't, and I don't talk to it like a friend or a
You don't
companion,
date
but
it
don't date it. I'm happily married. So
to a
it's
real
crazy.
person, to a human.
To an actual real human being. But you
So
see more and
awesome.
more people are getting married to them. It's not even like, at first it was funny, like, yeah, I'm sure, but it's true. I follow a lot of things online and people are falling in love with it, and it's insane to see and to believe that this is the where whatever it is that's causing this kind of like antisocial behavior, or maybe it's just the algorithm, but whatever it is causing it is, hopefully it ends soon.
Hopefully, I'm not optimistic, but hopefully.
I know, me neither. I'm on the negative side too, Robert. Well, just to go over one more time, the QR is going to be in the corner. We're going to put a whole blog post out there for you. Let me know exactly about the Mocha Lisa date. Was that the date you were looking for, or was that the more?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be April 25th. I'll get an email from one of the owners on his list, and he'll let me know. And as soon as I know, I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll put it up there. And if you have any questions in the meantime, if you want to talk to Robert or contact him, all his contact information that you are able to see, obviously, like his social links and his Amazon link will be on this post. And he's, yeah, I appreciate your time. So,
You too.
yeah,
Appreciate having me on. It's a very magnanimous of you. Very nice of you.
Hey, it's nothing. It's nothing. So, Tony with Clifton Park Spark. Thank you, Robert. And, I'll talk to you soon. I will talk to you soon. I feel like we're going to cross paths, not just at Mocha Lisa, but who knows?
All right. Well, you know where to find me.
North of Albany, where the Mohawk River flows, lies a quiet town that everybody knows.